one of the things you notice that Brooke sometimes talks just about her her mother. It's not that her father wasn't there. He got to the point where he was so frustrated at IEP meetings that it got to where he just didn't want to go anymore. And so because of the tension and stress that he felt, it just wasn't, I was going to the IEP meetings. And so he certainly was there along for the journey and the support of what we were doing. He just, our roles changed. And so I was the one who went to the IEP meetings and tried to help navigate some of the service system. Some of the things that Brooke mentioned that were things that were really got in the way. We had a tough time getting assessments for Brooke. Any time of assessment, particularly technology. I mean, it's a shame that she's 20 years old and between early intervention and special education, since the age of 2 years old, well, early when she was an infant, about 18 months old, all the way up to being now at 20 years old, she has never had an assessment that was appropriate, that was age appropriate, that used different types of modalities to get information from Brooke. And so we found the iPad and the Pro Loquo and have been trying to do things, but Brooke is still she's not an initiator. So she will, she's a responder. So if someone says something, Brooke can certainly respond, whether through behavior or through us helping her maybe push some buttons on here. But for Brooke to initiate conversation like we all would, that has not been something we've been able to do. And that is my biggest regret about the last 20 years of the service system, not being able to do that. And I think for someone who, because of her complexity of disabilities, we understand it was a challenge for them, but we tried to also bring in resources, people that we knew. We paid for people to go into the school system. We purchased assessment toolkits from the Texas School for the Blind or other places which we knew that had worked, and they just refused to use them. They didn't take advantage of some of those, and so I really felt, I don't know if it was a pride thing in the school, just felt their egos were being, and their professionalism and their credentials were being questioned, but we were there to try to work together as a team. And so I found it very frustrating that at 20 years old, she still doesn't have anything more than a very rudimentary communication system, when I know Brooke could. We bought things that the school bought. They would try some device. We'd go out and purchase it on our own, because often it wasn't covered through Medicaid. And then we'd find out 2 months later they had stopped using it. They weren't even doing anything with it. And so we were still, there was no consistency between home and school. And so they really gave up on her and her communication system. And so that was a real shame. The other thing is just, I think there's lots of, you all know there's lots of waiting lists. You're here at the ARC conference because you believe in that our service system needs to do more for people. There's a big inequity. We have a few people getting a lot of services and a lot of people getting nothing. And so there's waiting lists. The other thing that was a real challenge for Brooke was that when we'd get a service provider who really got to know Brooke and figure out how to work with her, they left to go to the private industry. They could make more money outside of the school system and have less headaches. And so their caseloads were smaller. And so we lost a lot of great service providers because of the turnover, and we had to start all over. And Brooke had to start all over with somebody. And just again, when they got to know her, off they'd go again. The things that really worked well, though, there were some really great things, is we did have some people that came into Brooke's life, either through the school system or through out in the community, or people that she was getting services from through the doctor's offices, who really were very open-minded, who were very supportive of us trying things and getting us connected to people. I think it helped us to kind of have that vision and set up that vision early on when she was 18 months, 2 years old, and try to stay on that path. We veered off several times, and that's fine. We're all going to do that. Sometimes we kept on those dirt bumpy roads. Sometimes we came back to the path we were originally on, but we knew where we were going. So it's just like taking a trip, and you set up your map of where you're going to go. We did the same thing. We kind of outlined where is she going to be in 2015? And we did that when she was little. And then we tried to make sure we were always staying with our eye on that prize. We networked with a lot of people. So I went to lots of conferences and workshops that had nothing to do with the disabilities Brooke had. If it was autism, I'd go. If it was behavior, even though Brooke never had any real behavioral challenges, I wanted to go because I met other parents. I met professionals in the field, and I stayed in touch with them, and I networked with them. And I got to, it's how I ended up being hired in the disability field, was because of those connections. And so not only did it pay off for Brooke personally, because I was able to get some supports to help us figure out some things, but I also ended up getting a job that pays somewhat okay at a university. And I had a lot of support from other parents. Really got to know a lot of parents. They were the people I mentioned earlier that helped us think about what a typical life could look like, which was different from what I had thought. Yes, Reed. So that's the dog Brooke, Tatanka, that we got Tatanka just a few months like maybe 6 months or so before Brooke was born, and so she was a baby. We got her just when she was only a few months old, and so she and Brooke really grew up together, and so they had a long time together. They got to play together when Tatanka was failing in some of her health. Brooke kind of instinctively knew how to be more gentle with her. Tonka put up with a lot of Brooke jumping on her and scratching her, poking her eyes, yanking her tongue, and was an awesome dog. And so we really knew that Brooke loved dogs because whenever she was around other dogs, particularly big dogs like Tatanka, she just instinctively would want to be with them. And so we knew that was one of her interests.
This is my business. Brooke's Happy Tales dog boarding and pet sitting. My twin cousins designed this logo for me.
Yeah, her twin cousins, who are 32, did this for Brooke when she was in high school because they wanted to help contribute to the business.
If you want to start your own business, these are the steps I did with help from my mom and high school transition counselor.
Brooke also had some help from the Future Business Leaders of America. It's a club that students can join in high school, and we encourage students with disabilities to join that because through there, Brooke got to hang out with some of the students who were talking about business, and they realized, and especially if they grow up, when they leave school, they become employers. They've now had experience with someone with a disability and maybe think differently when someone comes to apply for a job. So it was a great opportunity for Brooke to get connected with that group. They also helped do some market research for Brooke.
You need to research if there are already businesses in your area like the one you want to start, and if they are successful. Swamps, I am in my school's Future Business Leaders of America club. My club mates helped me do market research. We found that even in tough economic times, people will spend money on their pets. I got some donations like dog toys, an outside fence kennel area, and shampoo, so I did not need a lot of money up front.
We went to meet with the Virginia Department of Rehab Services, and they have a guy that all he does is talk to people with disabilities about owning their own businesses. And these are the steps that he says people need to take to do that. And so he said, you need to do this and come back. And it was very helpful because one of the things he had to do is he had to figure out a budget. And so in thinking through the different businesses that were kind of being generated around for Brooke, some of the ideas, this one didn't require a lot of money up front because, as Brooke said, there were some donations that were made, some outside kennel fencing, some shampoo, some dog toys. And so there wasn't a lot of money because she was running this out of her home, not purchasing a building, because we wanted to try this business on for a while with Brooke to see if this was ultimately going to be, we all changed jobs. I had some that were 3 days long. I had some that were 6 months. And when we're young, we change jobs a lot until we find that right fit and that career. And so it was nice to be able to go into something without having to put a lot of money up front.
There was a lot of paperwork to start my business, state and federal forms, a bank account, and dog applications.
And so again, her high school classmates helped her look online to see what are some sample dog applications, and they sent them home so we could use those to help her come up with her own template.
I have a Facebook, but need to work on marketing. It is in my IEP.
Yeah, now that she's, as Brooke mentioned earlier, she's a post-school grad, so she went back to school last year, and she may go back again in the fall. Brooke is still kind of having conversations with us about that. We wrote in there really about employment goals, so it really was about continuing to try to do something around communication, but also the other goal is around how to build her business because she's not quite there yet, and what kind of supports does she need to market a business. So she again took some marketing and business classes in high school.
SWAM stands for Small Woman and Minority Owned Business. Every state has a registry. It is good to get on it for grants and loans.
So one of the things you could do if you start your own business is there are just loans. They just will give you money. You don't even have to pay it back. So if you could present your idea and you have done a little bit of research to show why you think your business will be successful, you could be eligible for some loans or some grants. And with grants, you may have to pay some of them back, and some you don't.
Here I am taking care of my clients. I play with them, put them to bed, bathe them, take them on walks at the park. The dog that is kissing me, Cherokee, had cancer and had to be put to sleep last year. I am sad about that. He looks like my Tatanka.
Yeah, Brooke really grew really close to Cherokee. He was an outdoor dog, and so when Brooke has clients come, she didn't want them to be outdoors, and so we have a couple acres, and so her dad or others, we have to help walk them because many of the dogs are a little afraid of the wheelchair, and we're afraid she'll let go of the leash and they'll run, and so we tend to do some of the walking of the dogs. But when Cherokee came, they never let him in the house. He was an outside dog, and we said, well, it's his vacation, and so he'll stay in the air conditioned and sleep with Brooke and hang out in the house, and so he stayed with us quite a bit when his owners went away. And Brooke loved having Cherokee come because he did remind, he was stinkier than Tatanka because he was outdoors, so he was really kind of smelly. But Brooke loved having him because she loved that. She could tell the difference in the dog furs, and Huskies have a very different fur. And so Cherokee was one of her favorites, and unfortunately the last time he stayed with us, about a week after that, they had to put him to sleep because we noticed there were some things going on with him, and they took him to the vet, and they discovered he had cancer, and there wasn't a way and they didn't think he had very long to live.
I buy them gifts when they spend holidays with me. Gus looks funny with his stocking.
So there's Brooke up in the corner. She could pour the water in their bowls. She does the she could put food in their bowls. She plays with them. She plays ball with them. When she worked at the dog rescue, she did a lot of work with the helping the puppies who had been abused get used to human touch again. And so they crawled all over her. And so she's very patient with the dogs. They're very patient with her. And so she spends most of her time with them just laying all over her and chasing her around the house and kissing her. There's a lot of kissing going on.
This is what my mama calls the big elephant in the room. Who really runs the business when the person has significant support needs like me? Are the things on the top of this slide. My mom, dad, teachers and others help with other tasks like accounting, the IRS, and walking some of the dogs who might run away if I let go of their leash. I don't think that is any different than other business owners. They don't run their business completely on their own. They have employees and volunteers. Why should my business be any different?
That was a big that's been one of the things that we get quite often, even from the Department of Rehab Services, was who's really going to run the business, and that they frequently feel like parents help people start a business and then they do all the running of the business and the person is completely not involved in it. And I can tell you, when I was one of my earlier jobs out of college, I ran a business for someone who I never saw. I never saw him ever. I hired all the staff, we paid all the bills, we managed the office, we brought clients in and out, and we didn't have email really at the time. It was back in the mid-'80s. We never saw this person. So it really is aggravating when people question why it's okay for someone that doesn't have a disability to be completely disengaged from their business and to be a business owner and maybe contribute financially but never be around. But when a person with a disability is running a business and they need supports and people are helping them, it's suddenly, well, they're not really running that business. And so I think it's important to know that, people with disabilities may not do everything in their business, but that's okay. That's pretty common. And so these are just some of the things that Brooke shares with some other folks that help her do this.
I've been doing this for almost 2 years now. I have 6 or 7 four-legged clients, but need more if I am going to make any money.
So Brooke really has about 10 clients now, because when we last did this a month or so ago, she's added several clients since then. As a matter of fact, a new client came last night. His name is also Gus. We have 2 dogs now named Gus that are clients of Brooke's. And we had 2 other dogs already at the house that Brooke had picked up a week ago that were coming to stay. And so we had 3 of them last night. And so it was a little chaos this morning they're still getting to know each other, and there's a couple males, and they're trying to keep them from not fighting. So it was a little, so she has about 10 clients at this point. But Brooke probably, in 2012, she might have earned about $150 or so a month. And then last year, it might have been a little bit more. And this year, she's probably going to do a little bit more than that. But again, you can't live on that. So she ended up applying for SSI, as she mentioned in the last presentation. So with that additional funding, that does help support her paying towards some of the bills that she has. Her house is on well water, so she doesn't have any bills from the water company, but she still has electricity and has to have groceries. And so between that and the money she earns from the dog business, she doesn't have a whole lot left over. So right now she still is relying on that additional supports from SSI. But as she said, she really doesn't want to be. She wants to have enough income that she doesn't need to have that.
This year, I added a service to take people to airport. They leave their car at my house, and we provide a ride to and from airport. I could add dog grooming services. I could charge higher fees. And I could charge other people to help them start their own dog boarding or pet sitting business.
So one of the things that the Future Business Leaders of America had talked with Brooke about, with some of the students and the business teachers, were that she could continue to add some additional services that would make it more appealable, because there might be some competition. And so because we only live 5 miles from the airport, one of the things that Brooke mentioned was having people leave their car so they don't have to pay for parking, and one of us will drop them off and pick them up. So that's an added bonus. We just learned that there's a new dog boarding business out in our end of town, and they're charging double what Brooke does. And so, and people were complaining that the price is too high. And so Brooke needs to probably go back and do another market research and see in 2 years, is she undercharging, because she could be, I don't think she wants to go as high as double what she is now, because we don't want to lose clients because it's too high. But I suspect that she could be charging more. And then maybe bringing in dog grooming or some other types of services.
I'm also looking at opening a second business, Ghost Tours. This is me at Gettysburg hunting ghosts. Market research says Ghost Adventure hot right now. I live next to a Civil War battlefield, and there aren't any tours there yet.
Wait.
And my cousin are friends with the guy Zach on Ghost Adventures TV show, and he may help.
So we don't want anyone to steal this idea. So if you live in Richmond, we've got it first. But we live near the battlefields in Richmond on the other end of town, and we don't see any ghost hunting or ghost tour businesses that are coming through the battlefield. And so one of the things that we've talked with Brooke about is maybe looking at a second business, which would be more costly, because we'd have to have a van and some people who narrate stories. We'd have to work with the Park Service to allow different times of being able to be out in the park, and sometimes you can't get out of the van because they don't allow anyone after dark onto the battlefield. And so we'd have to have some conversations, but we certainly are interested. And as Brooke mentioned, she got for Christmas several years ago a lot of ghost hunting equipment. She's been to Gettysburg and gone ghost hunting, and her cousins who helped develop her logo live out in Hollywood and have been on the Ghost Adventure show. And so they have some connections with some people that are in the show business who have offered to give us some suggestions and help.
Here are some resources to get you started. As my mama said earlier this morning, all of us can work. We may just need to reframe what work means. This is what my family did, and look at me now.